Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Payne.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon, broadcasting here out of the Sunset Gower studios with Universal Broadcasting Network, and then every Thursday 7, Saturday at 1 on my syndicated CNBC News Radio, KCAA. AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and everywhere on iHeartRadio. And I'm here to splatter you with more hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, no K-words at all, no Kardashian talk, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And so if you've missed any of my past shows for this last, it's been over 5 years now. I've been on the air. Unbelievable. It seems like yesterday. So if you've missed any of the shows from Muhammad Ali's daughter, Layla Ali, to Marianne from Gilligan's Island, to Marianne Williamson, to Dr. John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I've had a whole host. They call my show a cross between NPR, Entertainment Tonight, and Hey How's Spirituality. So if you're interested in any of those topics, make sure you go back, go to iTunes, go to YouTube, and thanks to my listeners, my views in the last 2 years since we put cameras in the studio are now over 92,000 views. So thank you so much for listening. But that is because hope and happiness are definitely trending. And I'm really happy to say that the other reason why I think this show's doing so well is because I want to balance out all of the negative news out there. And you just have to turn your TV on, turn your radio on the way to work. It is one thing after another, the worst in people. If it bleeds, it leads. There's always seems to be bad news. There's always something wrong with our world, wrong with people. So I've made it my absolute job to balance out all of that negative news with people and topics that talk about what's right with you and what's right with the world. And today's guest is a special example of that. We have in studio today Dr. AJ, and it's actually Dr. John, but we'll print. But he's known as AJ. I've only known him as AJ, was inspired to volunteer in a soup kitchen after a conversation with Tony Robbins, who had shared with him the correlation between food and self-worth. In particular, how the impact of hunger on humanity, especially children, was devastating on more than just a physical level. That experience led AJ ultimately to the creation of Feed a Billion, which advocates for the hungry and displaced around the globe. Dr. Ambuj John, I was close, founded Feed a Billion in May of 2016 and promises to serve 1 billion meals by November 20th, 2020. Please welcome to the studio, Dr. AJ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Marissa.
Absolutely.
For having me on your show.
Absolutely. I actually met you at, I believe, City Gala.
City Gala.
Thanks to Ryan Long and Cheryl Snap Connor, my best PR buddy, introduced me to you. And that's how you got here. And we wanted to capitalize on you being in town for the another City Gala launch.
The launch party for 2018, yes.
Yeah, so welcome here. And you obviously have small goals
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You feed a billion, not
only
not
a
a
billion.
million,
No.
not a million. I didn't even know billion existed when I was growing up. So Tony Robbins struck a chord. Let's go back because did you grow up thinking you were going to do this? Let's go back and talk about how you grew up. So how we figure out how we got to these lofty goals.
That'll be good.
Good.
I grew up in India, where you were recently.
Yes.
And I grew up in a very small town in India. And to put it in perspective, it's a town, there's no traffic lights, there's no stop sign. And yet, when I was growing up, there were about 250,000, 300,000 people. For India, that's a small town, because there's 1.3 billion people in India. And we grew up in abundance. We were not wealthy, but there is so much poverty in India. We had abundance in our family. There was a lot of love, and we gathered as a family around food. There was a lot of conversation around food. Many times we will just have one plate. It's called a thali, and there will be a lot of vegetables and lentil and bread and rice and things like that. And my sisters and I will eat together. And
How many sisters?
There are 3 sisters and a brother.
And you were
I'm number 4.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one sister, younger one, she's also in the States.
Okay.
And the rest of my family is in India. So we just grew up a very happy family. There was not a complicated life. We didn't have television. There was no internet. There was a lot of interaction, and we knew how to spend time with each other, just hanging out and being with friends. And food was always part of that conversation. It was always there. And it wasn't until much later when I went to Tony's events, and he helped me understand through his own example of how one Thanksgiving he didn't have, as a teenager, their family didn't have any money, and there was no food, and somebody came and gave them food. And through that example, he shared how it made him feel. So I had not seen the connection between hunger and feeling of lack of self-worth, especially among children.
Yeah.
Because there's no hope.
How old were you when you first heard Tony talk about this?
Just recently, just within the last, I was 53.
Okay. So later.
Much later.
So let's go back before we talk to Tony. Yeah. So you had a nice, loving home, not super rich, but not super poor. Right. And then you decided, how did you get to the States to go to school? Because you went to University of Buffalo. I know that,
that's right. I did my MBA and PhD in Buffalo, yeah.
Okay.
And prior to coming here, I had done a bachelor's in India and then also a master's in India.
Okay. Underachiever. Yeah. Yeah. So
Actually,
we have the same, I have 2 masters too. So
right.
Bachelor's, 2 masters, and a PhD.
Hey,
so we match.
Right.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So
I don't run into very many people.
I know.
That.
You're the first one who's had
awesome.
the same thing. So okay, so you're an overachiever, a recovering overachiever, right? So you got the degrees in what? So business. So what did you do? What was your job?
So my degrees are actually quite a few things. So I studied business law, accounting, economics, marketing, social psychology, econometrics.
Couldn't make up your mind.
Right. That's exactly right. So, it may seem like I have these 4 degrees and I'm an overachiever, but frankly, it happened organically. There was no grand plan. Okay. It just kept happening. Okay. And things just kept opening up, and I just kept doing it. Mm-hmm. And I ended up in the States, and it was, at the time in the early 80s, it was very difficult to get foreign exchange for students coming to the States. And I didn't have any problem with that. And my visa for coming to the States, it just happened, and my passport was done in a very miraculous way in a day. And really, when you put it all together, it was just a guided life. And then when I came to the States, I saw life here. And, growing up, my father was the president of the Rotary Club in our town.
Okay.
And we used to get a magazine called The Rotarian.
I've spoken for the Rotary Club. Is this the same same
It's a,
organization
yeah,
all
it's
over?
it's a global organization,
Okay. With the wheel.
Right, the
Okay.
wheel, and the Rotarian magazine used to come, and I remember when I was a kid, I will sit and look at the magazine. It was glossy paper, and there were these ads in the back and about you could order this, that, and the other. I don't remember all those things, but they were just the coolest things. And I could never order it because the conversion rate, the things were very expensive in converting into the Indian currency, and I had no money. But I was just fascinated.
So consumerism got you.
Right. And I was just fascinated with this quality of paper and all these beautiful pictures and these ads. And I just was fascinated with life beyond my hometown. And that's how I ended up I had a very encouraging family. You know, my father is very well known in our community, very well respected businessman.
Is he still around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is 87.
Wow.
And he's still around, very healthy.
What does he think about all this?
He is very proud of it. In fact,
Wonderful. I guessed that.
Yeah, I didn't tell him about it till we had actually done something with children in India, and we sponsored 1,000 children for a whole year, and we provide a meal, a midday school meal to 1,000 children, and I want to expand that to 10,000, 100,000 children. So I didn't say anything to him till we had reached 1 million meals. So I told him that, you know, we have just done. I'm doing this thing called Feed a Billion, and we have just done 1 million meals. And he was genuinely moved. He was genuinely moved to realize that he had a son who was doing something
To make a difference.
Because he's a very humble man and the highest levels of integrity. And he has lived his entire life like that.
That's
And,
beautiful.
And he was just very moved by what we are doing and what we have been able to do and where we are going with this.
That's fantastic.
So
That's fantastic.
so the Tony thing came about because, so I have always pushed and tried to be more, learn more, give more. It's always been my desire to do that. Partly it was because when I was growing up in the community where we were growing up, the neighborhood boys, they picked on me, and I was
Why?
bullied. Well, they had a nickname for me. In English, it translates into brown cat, and it was because my eyes were brown, and
what
I had
color usually are
black, right, and my skin was lighter color. And I didn't really interact with them very much. So I think they...
what you are afraid of, you make fun of.
Right. So and what that did for me was, many years later, I learned that instead of being angry at them, I actually became grateful to them because they propelled me to do so much more and do better in school so that I could get out of there.
Right.
And it just lit a fire.
Yeah.
And that fire has always been there. And I was looking for, I was with a company and that company was sold in 2013. And I felt, throughout your life, you work and you get to a point that you don't have to work. And I had no purpose. And within 2-3 months, I was reading the Wall Street Journal 6 hours a day, but didn't have anybody to talk to.
Right.
So that's how I ended up in the Tony world. And then we found out that he has this program called Platinum Partners where people from around the world come together who are seekers, knowledge seekers, and want to give back. And I joined that. My wife joined that. She's a school principal. She quit her job. So we just traveled around the world. Wherever Tony went, we went. And
very cool.
We, I ended up going to 23 or 24 of his events. And it was an amazing journey because I met people that were on a journey trying to figure themselves out.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing that. And through that process, I realized that there is we seek happiness outside of us by consuming things or doing things. And what occurred to me is that the happiness comes from resolving everything that is going on within us. And the ultimate happiness comes when you give. And the joy that comes from giving is indescribable, because you can feel that connection at the deepest level of us. We want to connect and we want to give. That is who we are. That is in our soul. And when you look at the world right now, there is so much of divisiveness.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was create a platform where it's not feed a billion, it's a billion times one individual is saying to another individual, I love you. It's connecting with this person somewhere around the world. And that is the platform that we have created. Is the whole purpose of doing this is to give people an opportunity to connect with each other. And instead of judging, we have enough food in the world right now. We have 17% more food per capita than what we need. And yet 785 million people don't have enough food right now today. 42 million in America, at home here. 42 million people are food insecure. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. It's just amazing to me that in this present day and age where we have enough food, the problem has gotten worse.
Yes.
So
what is going on? That was one of my questions, actually, and you just answered the question without me having to ask it. You're reading my mind or looking at my script. But if you've just tuned in and you're wondering who I get to talk to today, and this is a face you haven't seen before, but it will probably be a face you'll see again because I want to keep track of how he's doing. It's Dr. AJ, and he's created this beautiful mechanism called Feed a Billion. And I find out today it's not really, it's about food, but it's really not about food. That's I just got that connection. And I really did want to actually find out if what I had heard, that there is enough food on the planet to feed every single person, then why is it that how many million people are
785 million
people are food insecure? They don't know where their next meal is coming from.
Correct.
Okay, and that's how many? 42 million in the States.
Yes.
Okay, so then all over the rest of the world, right? Would you say every single country has people who don't know where their meal is coming from?
Absolutely.
So even like Singapore or Hong Kong, so every single country has this opportunity.
Yes.
Yes. So and we have even more food and resources than we ever have.
Yes.
And yet there are even more. So the more we have, the more food insecure. The more we have, the more food insecure. Right. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
That's not logical.
Yeah.
Why?
It's a very good question.
Thank you.
And the reason it exists, there's a variety of reasons.
Okay.
Logistics is an issue. Food wastage is an issue. Not food wastage in what we are leaving on our plates in the restaurants. Food wastage where food doesn't even make it out of the farms into the supply system.
Because it's imperfect. I saw some show, I think it's Food Inc. Like if it's not a perfect pear or a peach, it gets thrown away.
That's one of the variables. The other one is in certain countries, food shows up and there is no mechanism to take it from point A to point B. There is no refrigerated trucks available. Sometimes the road infrastructure is not available. There is politics that prevents food from getting to where it needs to go. There is corruption. There is warlords. Because there are countries, there are parts of the world where food is more precious than gold. It gives people in power the ability to control population. So they use food as leverage. And when Haiti storms happened several years ago and President Clinton got involved and they mobilized hundreds of millions of dollars worth of food, so much of that food was wasted because it didn't make it to where it needed to go because the infrastructure didn't exist. So we started from ground zero and built from there and saying, let's pair with people that are delivering food, are familiar with what goes on in those countries and in those places, as opposed to us creating the infrastructure on our own. There are people that already do this.
Doing it.
What we are creating is the vehicle and the familiarity of the brand name and an umbrella where we can actually support these organizations doing what they're very good at.
That's great. Very smart. Yeah. So you're not reinventing
So we are bringing
the
business principles. Ultimately,
so you're using your education,
education and experience and network, and my desire to have an impact and really creating this platform for all the other people to get involved, because I'm just one person. But I realize that unless we do one, we are not going to do 10,000, we are not going to do 1,000,000, we are not going to do 100 million. We have to start with one.
Right.
So that's what I did one, and then one becomes 10, and then more people become involved, and more people start to do, and then everybody says, I can do this. Everybody has an opportunity to actually make a difference. The thing about hunger is that we can actually solve this problem together.
In this lifetime?
In this lifetime.
Okay.
We can solve this problem. Yeah. It's a sustainable solution is possible. And there's logistics, there is better yield from land, there is better seeds now, there are better fertilizers.
What about the whole GMO? Explain that one.
It's, some of the GMO is bad because they've done so much modification, but some of the GMO is good because they have provided better seeds that are actually able to create better yield for feeding the population.
Okay.
And
so it's not all bad.
Yeah. So for example, a country like India, that is, majority of the people in India are vegetarian, so wheat consumption is very high in India. India has 1.3 billion people, but India produces enough wheat that it is able to self-sustain the population. Now, that has happened because of improvements in the agricultural methodologies, right? So if India was not able to utilize some of those things, it will be a problem for India to feed its population.
Right.
So, and the same is true in some other countries as well. Now, there are other countries where the land is not productive enough. There's a lot of deserts in Africa, for example. I don't know if you saw that in the UN was established in 1945, and there was they just did a study, and there was a presentation by the UN that since 1945 the worst humanitarian crisis is unfolding right now in East Africa. Since 1945, the worst humanitarian crisis, and it's because of starvation. It's happening right now.
How come we don't hear about it?
Because, as you said, what sells, what bleeds is what leads.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about it because it doesn't make it in the mainstream media as much as it should. Okay,
so we're hearing about it now.
Yeah.
So there's a starvation crisis going on in East Africa that we didn't know about. I didn't know about it until now. So this is where I always, willingness without action is a fantasy. Yeah. And besides giving you money, which we're going to talk about after the break, and how you can be a partner to this fabulous already in place effort. But let's say someone's in transportation right now listening to this show. What can they do? Or someone in what are the pressure points that we can appeal to make changes that is going to help this whole effort? Do you say not just money effort, right? Beyond that. So, for example, for my Veterans Day show, I had a man, Michael McPherson, who's head of Veterans for Peace. And what he made me realize was one of the reasons we still have so much prejudice and so much discrimination and bias is because there's a lot more people who are not as biased or prejudiced, but the people holding the positions of funding loans or deciding whether, loans, renting or selling homes or hiring people for jobs or giving out loans, those key people in those positions, if they're still holding bias, it is never going to change. Right. So who are those influence points, if I can call them, who would help your effort? What do politicians need to do in this effort? What do transportation experts, as you were talking about? Give me your wish list. I'm Santa Claus.
My wish list is that the organizations that are helping with the cause of eliminating hunger, that they are able to take food to where it is needed without having to deal with the politics and the border disputes and the warlords. I wish that people that are in power would allow for a human being to receive food as fundamental as something as food, without monetizing it, without creating barriers around it. Let a child, it is not that child's fault that he was born or she was born. Let that child receive the food that they deserve. It's our obligation to make sure that people have food. There is, water and food are so basic to survival. We can talk about education. We can talk about so many other things, but none. There's so much work going on in AIDS and malaria and vaccinations. None of those things work effectively unless there is food in the system of that human being. And the food that we're providing in Africa, that food is being called the miracle food because it is helping the AIDS medication be more effective, because there is nutrition in the body of the human being that is receiving this medication. So what is my wish? My wish is, let us do what needs to be done. Leave us alone. Leave the organizations that want to solve this problem. Leave them alone. Let them do. Don't interfere. Don't use this as a power grab. Let the system work. Let us solve this problem.
Is it power? It is power. It sounds like that's the one, trying to monetize something that is a fundamental human birthright, food and water, clean food and water. Clean water and food. Is it because of power or resources? And I woke up with this term probably a couple years ago called planet patriotism. And until we get to a place where it's not so important that my country is better than yours, that we are all on the same planet, and that every person on the planet is just as important as another, regardless of what country they come from, that to me will begin to break this down. Yes. So because you are talking about border wars, you are talking about nationalism, right? Our country has to have more than yours, or we can't let your country have anything.
It's not necessarily just the country. I'll give you an example of why hunger exists in our country here, which is the richest country in the world.
Right.
We judge. So we say that somebody's hungry because they must be drug addicts, or they must be lazy and they don't work. Let me say this. Go and meet a mom that is working full time and is making $12 an hour, and she has 2 children, and one of those kids falls ill. She cannot go to work. She is now behind perpetually. She will not be able to feed herself and her 2 children every single day. She mathematically cannot do it. So we judge not only people in other countries, we judge at home, here. We don't pause to think about why it is that that person is in that circumstance. Let's try to understand that a little bit before we jump to the conclusion. If somebody posted on our Facebook page, somebody posted a comment that the problem wouldn't exist if these kids were not even born.
Oh.
How insensitive is that?
These are probably the same people who are against any kind of aid, against any kind of welfare, against any kind of helping hand at all.
Yeah, I mean, I challenge people, before you come to a conclusion, go and work at a homeless shelter. Go work in a soup kitchen. Go deliver food. Look in the eyes of the people that you're giving the food to. You are more brave, go to a different country. See the level of poverty that exists. Don't judge without knowledge. Educate yourself. Do something. It is not just about money. It's about becoming aware and saying, you know what? I'm not going to stand on the sideline for the rest of my life. I'm going to do something about this.
Yeah.
Because if I don't do something about this, who else will?
Correct. I had chairman of the board, Mark Ridley Thomas, on the show a couple of months back, and we helped pass Measure H, which is for the homeless. And the number of, it's like 57,000 homeless just in the city of Los Angeles. And I asked him, what about all the judgments of people are just lazy, people don't want to work, and why should we help? Why should we care? Why should we, not me, but just voicing some of the same kind of sentiment that idiot posted on your Facebook wall. So he looked at me and he says, it's about human dignity for everyone.
Yes.
And I was like, that settled in my mind once and for all why this is an important thing for me to address and for me to highlight, because it is all of our responsibilities. It's not, but you pointed out at the beginning of the show, it's not even a responsibility. It's a gift.
Yes.
Right? You've never, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm watching you talk and watching you describe what you get to do. Have you had more joy in your life since 53 and doing this, all this work, than you did doing what you were supposed to do?
Yes.
Go to school, get a degree, get a job, bring home the bacon to your family, or no bacon, depending for you, no bacon.
No bacon.
But this is our opportunity and our gift to serve and to give and to give.
And that's what I was saying earlier, that our as a human being, we have a need to connect. We have a need to love. We have a need to be loved. We have a need to give.
Right.
That's what brings us joy.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the eyes of anyone that is helping somebody. The joy that it brings to give, it's beautiful. It makes us feel beautiful about ourselves as human beings.
Yes.
And the desire to connect, the desire to love, it exists no matter where somebody is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a basic human need we have.
Yeah.
And to me, that's why food is love. That's how I grew up. That's how I see food.
And now that's how you're bringing food
and
to
that's
others.
how Feed a Billion is, yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's time for us to take a quick little break to thank the sponsors of today's show. As per usual, if you would like to be a partner with me, like-minded, love-hearted on this show, please do contact me at the number 4balance.org. And for very affordable rates, we get to highlight you, your product and service, and how you are partnering with my peace work around the planet. We'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in and peace out. Are you tired of being tired? Are you ready for more balance in your life? Then come to the beach and work with Dr. Marissa, motivational speaker, author, organizational psychologist, and host of the 2016 Podcast of the Year Top 10 in Health award-winning show, Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa. If you are ready to choose more hope and happiness no matter what's happening around you, then go to www.drmarissa.tv today. And welcome back. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California with Universal Broadcasting Network. And then every Thursday at 7, Saturday at 1 on my syndicated CNBC News Radio channel KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3 and FM 106.5, and also syndicated everywhere that iHeartRadio is, so check your local listings. And today I am blessed to have with me Dr. AJ, who has decided that he would like to take on the small goal of feeding 1 billion meals by May 20th, 2020. November 20th, 2020. And before I ask you the significance of that particular date, I would like just to highlight a couple of things that you said earlier about how beautiful that feeling of giving is. thanks to Dr. AJ, I had told him that I was going to India, his homeland, because I was being awarded and asked to speak at the Women's Economic Forum, and I got the Iconic Woman of the Year Award 2017, Creating a Better Future for All, thanks to Dr. Aurora Harbin and Dr. Efrat Feniger. And so I got to go, and I emailed him and said, while I'm there, because I'm a recovering overachiever, is there anybody else that I could talk to? Any companies needing advice that I don't use? And he hooked me up with his university mates. Just lovely, lovely family. Just absolutely love them. And she actually is the high level at MasterCard. So she got me to go in and give a little speech, a little talk there at MasterCard. But the highlight of that trip was she was also a part of the Literacy India, an NGO organization, and Jarvis is putting some shots up of the highlight of my India trip. More important than me getting the award, more important than me going to see the Taj Mahal. This was such a moving experience to be with a couple hundred kids. Being able to look every single one of them in the eyes and tell them that they are loved, loving, and lovable, that they are wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness, and that they can accomplish anything that their heart and mind sets to. And that was the same message I got when I was in grade 10. And so that's part of my work, is to do that around the globe. And thank you, shukriya,
Oh, you're
for making that happen.
you're welcome.
Yeah, to your
It
friends.
was such a pleasure to do that.
Yes, it was. The
Thank you.
Nisra, and it was absolutely wonderful. And so that giving feeling, and that's what we're talking about, how to
Yes.
do that. So why November 20th, 2020?
I had a vision that we were doing this celebration, and I can visualize that whole experience. There's 1,000 people. It's round tables. There's at every table there's a child. Every table there's a senior person. There are celebrities there. There's this dinner being held on November 2020. And I sat with it and I said, what is it? And I could see that it was the celebration of a distribution of 1 billion meals. The interesting thing is that I had the vision, but I did nothing with it. Because I was scared. I was scared of failing. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of what will people think. And all those conversations went on in my head. So for about 12, 13 months, I didn't do anything. And then I was at an event that Tony was doing, and he called on me relating to something else. And as part of that conversation, I ended up sharing with him this vision I had. And I said to him that, you're so passionate about doing food and you want to do 1 billion meals, and we can do 1 billion meals together, and let's do it. And he said, I'm in, let's do it. So it was just very serendipitous how it happened.
Yeah.
So November
Your whole
20,
life. Your whole life.
It's really flow. People talk about flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
totally.
experience is that every time I have figured out that I am not in control and I have let things happen,
Magic happens.
they have happened much better than I could have ever orchestrated.
Yeah. Yeah. My life too.
And
I
that's
know
what is
exactly.
happening with Feed a Billion.
Yeah.
I have no idea how we are going to do 1 billion meals. But I know for sure that we are going to do 1 billion meals. Because it's already happened.
Yeah. Well, you've already hit 1 million.
We are at 1.5 million.
1.5 million.
Yeah.
How many millions in 1 billion? 100?
1,000.
1,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a long way to go.
We got a little work to do.
Yeah.
Little work
Now,
to do.
there's one thing that I wanted to mention that
Yes.
we have done differently because we are from business background. And for clarification, we make no money in this. I'm not doing this Feed a Billion for money. Nobody that is involved in it is doing it for money. This is purely because we want to have an impact. So one of the things that we did differently is that we wanted to involve companies. And we saw that there are 5 billion devices out there, mobile devices out there in the world.
Yeah.
And companies are now beginning to tap into the power of advertising on this. Facebook is valued at whatever,
Right.
$200 billion or
Yeah.
whatever the valuation
yeah.
is. And yet, it's very interesting when you look at the statistics of what's going on. You can create reach in Facebook. For $20, you can reach 1,000 people in Facebook. But in order to create engagement with them, if you're an advertiser, engagement means that they
Click.
or commented or shared. It will cost you, out of the 1,000, the statistics are that you will get engagement with about 5. Okay? So what we have done is we have said, instead of doing that directly on your own, Mr. Company, give us the $20 and we will create a campaign where we will take a part of that money and create the reach. It won't be 1,000 because we don't need 1,000, but for every share, 5 meals are provided. That for every share, 10 meals are provided, and for every like, 5 meals are provided. So we are taking a part of the money that you're giving us, and we are converting that into meals. So now you as a brand have the ability to affiliate with a cause and create a stickiness, a longer-term engagement relationship with the customer, especially the millennials who are 80 million people, and they're very cause-driven.
Right.
So we have created a platform that completely integrates with Facebook. So instead of asking companies donate money, we are saying you're already investing in social media advertising.
Yeah.
Give us a chance.
Yeah.
And
I'm
we
in.
will-
I'm in.
And what we are finding is that in some of the experiments that we have done, we are able to produce 500, 600% better engagement than they're able to do on their own. So it's a win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
We get meals. The companies get better customer engagement. The customer feels good about themselves.
Yes.
And Facebook is also getting some advertising dollars.
Perfect. So how do they sign up? How do we sign up? I'm going to do that.
So it's very easy.
Yeah.
You can go to feedabillion.org
Okay.
and you can contact us, or you can go to Feed a Billion on Facebook and you can contact us through there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You have your walking orders, your loving orders to go to feedabillion.org. Do something that is probably good for your business. Well, I know it's good for your business anyways. I know that I have a lot of likes and all that, but the conversion into I need some help with that. So this is perfect.
Yep.
And feedabillion.org, Dr. AJ will personally reach out to you. Is the Asian Oprah giveaway? I forgot to ask you about that before the show. A T-shirt?
Yeah.
Do you get a T-shirt when you do this with the?
If we can give T-shirts to, I'm making this up right now, but we can give T-shirts away to a company that is sponsoring us.
Yeah.
And becoming a partner with us.
Perfect.
And we will send them a T-shirt, and we'll
Okay.
get the size and we'll ship it to you because you support us.
Yes.
Since you are investing in social media with us anyway,
Yeah.
might as well brag about it. That
Yeah,
you're doing it.
absolutely. So there is the Asian Oprah giveaway. Is that anybody that signs up and says they do it through Dr. Marissa? Actually, why don't you contact me and say I'd like to do that, and or directly, and and then we get a T-shirt out of it. Yeah,
Yes,
sound good?
Absolutely.
This is one of those fundamental. I love the fact that I can highlight so many different ways to make this world a better place. I like the infrastructure, and that this is kind of one of those foundation pieces. And for that, I'd like to give you the Dr. Marissa Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't always give that. I think
Thank
it's
you.
fabulous. I think that, my first thought honestly was, okay, we're just going to feed people and then what? But from what you've put in place and what your ultimate goal is, I totally support it, and I think it's much more than about the food. This is an example of how we can connect, how we can show love, how we can love each other.
Yeah.
I actually, Anthony Robbins is on my docket apparently next year because of I'm selected press by the City Gala. I get to interview him. So I think I'm giving away something that I shouldn't be right now because the launch is tonight. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have you on.
Thank you.
The last thing I always do on the show is who would you like to be grateful to? Who would you like to thank?
I would like to thank my mother. for just being love.
Beautiful. What's her name?
Ravi Bala Jain.
Ravi
And
Bali.
she's this most beautiful human being, my father, who was always there. And he taught me the ultimate integrity
Beautiful.
and just unyielding. And Tony, because he has really helped me and so many people that he helps. He has this voracious appetite to make an impact and end suffering. And he does that every day. And he's very inspiring and inspired. And one thing I did want to mention is that for $12 a month, somebody can provide meals to 2 people for an entire month. So a cup of coffee, a venti coffee at Starbucks.
$5.55.
Right. So that venti coffee, if you decide to do one less coffee a month, you have the ability to provide meals to somebody for an entire month.
Yeah.
And it's a trade-off that I'm willing to make every single day.
Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure my listeners are too. So feedabillion.org. The sooner we do that, the sooner we hit the billion. We can be all part of that beautiful vision that Dr. AJ had of all sitting together and sharing love. And that is, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. That is fabulous. Love, love, love. We are at the end of the show. Time for my balance bar, where I ask you to step up and find out how you can get more balance in your life. And let's see, we've got actually right now I am keynoting as new faculty at the CEO Space International in Florida. So if you are interested in becoming part of that, it's like I'd say a mastermind on steroids. I know that it's been very helpful for me in my entrepreneurial activities, as well as connecting, as well as supporting, as well as learning and teaching. To join that, so go to welcome.ceospaceinternational.com/Dr. Marissa to sign up there. As well, my annual, or actually quarterly, Balance on the Beach, July 15th is my next one. And I will also tell you that you have to join my 21-day fast from complaining with Dr. Marissa. It is the best life habit I have that for the least cost. 99 cents will get you the app. And if you do not complain for 21 consecutive days in a row, I promise you will feel better and everybody around you will definitely feel better. So if you haven't already joined, please do. And next week, it is the second week of the month, so it will be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura, in action, giving you the advice that I don't use. So if you'd like to get in on a free balance session, please do contact my call-in producer, Jarvis Essex, by emailing him at jsessex13@aol.com, and he will get you to a point where you don't have to wait in line. That's why it's kinder, gentler Dr. Laura, and you can get your life tires balanced and your stinking thinking smog checked. So please do tune in for that, and every week for the show about hope and happiness. That's Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
Learned to cry at an early age. People around me, my heart in a cage. Life was a book, don't turn a page. I couldn't see past my rage. I wanted to dance, but I pushed you away. Now I'm on my knees, I'll listen to what you say. And you said, Be my partner, dance with me. Just hold on, I will lead. Don't be afraid if you can't see.